Zach, welcome to the Playbook Podcast, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat with you, Alec.
Yeah, likewise. So let's kick things off with just get straight to it. What is ZBiotics?
Yeah, ZBiotics, we make genetically engineered probiotics. And so we launched actually the world's first ever genetically engineered probiotic of any kind to go to market in August of 2019. And
Okay.
basically, the idea is we take safe, edible probiotic bacteria, and then we use modern biotechnology to engineer them to perform an additional function that we know will be useful to you and to human health in some way. And so our first product is a probiotic that we engineered specifically to have the function of breaking down acetaldehyde, right? Which is exactly that's the guy right there, pre-alcohol. Acetaldehyde is the toxic byproduct of alcohol metabolism that makes you feel not so great the day after drinking. So the idea is you drink this before you drink,
Right.
and the bacteria go into your gut and they become active and start breaking down this acetaldehyde as it forms while you're drinking. And then the idea is you wake up the next day, you feel better, you're able to get your morning workout in, you're able to get more things done, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I've had friends, try to compare this product to just like a typical hydration packet they use. How is this like completely different from just like
Yeah.
hydrating your body? Like how does this work? Just completely different than anything we've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, everything you see on the market in kind of the same space is all, like you say, just about hydration and electrolytes, which like nobody's gonna I'm not gonna sit here and say hydration is not valuable just generally as a human practice, but it actually has almost nothing to do with the way you feel the next day after drinking. This sort
Right.
of this common myth, this very pervasive myth that like alcohol severely dehydrates you, and that's just not at all the case. And we have literally decades of data that has been reproduced, dozens and dozens of times showing that any dehydration related to alcohol at most is incredibly minor. In fact, alcohol probably really doesn't dehydrate you at all.
Yeah.
And so there's the observation you pee more, but that's actually mostly because you're drinking more fluids. Alcohol does inhibit the antidiuretic hormone, but the effect is actually pretty mild in terms of your overall hydration. They show no electrolyte imbalances or glucose imbalances or anything that sort of these products purvey to fix. So they're really fixing a problem that doesn't exist fundamentally. And ultimately, look, people needed something, right? Like to do to something to hold on to. And it's like, look, as I say, hydrating is not a bad idea generally. It's just not really addressing the specific problem you're dealing with when you drink. And so
Sure.
I looked at this problem as a I have a PhD in microbiology, and I looked at it from a microbiological lens. Like, is there anything we could actually anything new we could, rather than just sweeping vitamins and electrolytes into a bottle, these things that already existed, is there anything we could build to actually specifically address the actual underlying problems? And I looked at the biochemistry around what happens to you when you drink. A lot of stuff's happening, but one of the most important things is this acetaldehyde formation. And acetaldehyde is this very toxic molecule, and we don't really have a great way to deal with it, especially the acetaldehyde that forms in the gut. And actually, the majority of the acetaldehyde you get exposed to is initially formed in the gut, even though the gut is a minor source of alcohol metabolism. And so I thought, like, okay, well, this is great. I'm a microbiologist. Bacteria live in your gut. Let's use bacteria to solve this acetaldehyde problem. And so I use modern biotechnology to genetically engineer the bacteria to break down acetaldehyde. So we're like really addressing this sort of like root cause in a totally novel way using modern technology, which is completely different than the idea of just kind of like throwing essentially salt water at you and like saying, hey, maybe that'll help. Like, because we actually know that it doesn't. So
Sure, sure. When was the first moment it clicked for you that you're like, wow, I have something that people really like and it's really improving their lives?
yeah, everything I just explained to you was sort of the scientific hypotheses, but like, the human part of me, like the non-scientist, was just like, yeah, but is that really gonna work? And so, when I built it, first and foremost, I tested it on myself, and
Sure.
waking up the first time after I tried it and feeling good was like a great moment, but it was not the moment I was convinced, right? Like an N of one, and I'm obviously very biased. And so I tried it several more times and gained more and more kind of conviction around it. But then I think when I really kind of realized that something really great, we actually had something really great that was actually going to impact people's lives, was we did a lot of beta testing and just consistently saw that people really liked the product and were seeing a benefit from it. But and so that gives us conviction to launch, but still, there's always that like doubt in the back of your mind. Like,
Sure.
and I think the moment for me, it was just kind of like a weird moment one day. I was, in the first 2 years that we were on the market, I was doing all of our customer service because I wanted to like get all the feedback that people had. And
Yeah.
I had this person reach out to me like maybe like 6 months after we launched, and they were like, just somebody like living in Florida that I did not know, that just sent an email saying like, hey, this product's amazing. I use it all the time and I'm headed to like a wedding. Can you send me like a 12-pack overnight? Cause I leave tomorrow. And there's just something about that. It was like this stranger. It wasn't a friend who had any loyalty to me. It's somebody I did not know on the other side of the country who like already had incorporated this into life and was like wanted it so bad that they were like reaching out and asking for like an expedited shipment. I know it sounds very pedestrian and normal, but like something about that for me was like, wow, like I just like this person's life is better because of this product and they love
Sure.
it. And like, they don't know me. They have no loyalty to me. It's only the product. And so I think that was when I realized, yeah, like this actually is something cool.
Yeah, and then you mentioned kind of your background. Could you go more into like the journey of your background from, whether it's microbiology or what exactly that entails?
Yeah, totally. I was, I was working at a lab as a research technician after college, like studying HIV, and I was really interested in basically like what I wanted. I love science and I wanted to solve problems. And I thought like, okay,
Sure.
well, like big problems in science are like human disease. And so I was like, say, I was studying HIV, a very important viral infection, and
Mhm.
I thought like I should go get my PhD and really like make this my life's work. And
Yep.
so I went to get my PhD, and when I got into the program, I really thought I was going to study viruses and human disease. Through kind of like a twist of fate, I ended up in a lab studying bacteria instead of viruses, but
Okay.
just totally fell in love with bacteria and was just
Yeah.
so fascinated by them. And initially, it was very much around like disease and disease, combating disease. But as I got into the field more, I recognized that actually the vast majority of bacteria are actually synergistic, beneficial, or at least neutral to human health, and only a very small percentage cause disease. And so I started thinking more around human health and problem solving in the context of like promoting health rather than combating disease, and like
Sure.
the immense amount of opportunity we had there. So that's what kind of got me interested in this idea of like probiotic bacteria and the bacteria in your microbiome that live in your gut, and on your skin and everywhere in the body. And like, how can we leverage them to kind of promote human health? And as somebody who was at the time not sick myself and like looking to promote and prolong my existing health, like I started to
Right.
think about like, well, I bet there's a lot of people like that as well. And so thinking about how can we leverage good bacteria to promote health in some way, and that kind of led me to this idea around like engineering specific functions into probiotics, because probiotics as they currently exist were just kind of like, hey, take this and hopefully it helps you in some unnameable way, like just generally benefits your health. And it's like, well, let's be more specific. Let's build a specific function that we know will benefit you in some way. And so that's kind of how I got to the place I am today.
Yeah, man. Personal stories. So, I mean, I've got into running over the last 18 to 24 months, and
Cool.
ZBiotics has completely changed my Friday nights. Being able to have a few glasses of wine with my girlfriend, and still being able to perform and enjoy those long Saturday runs, so much more. So
Yeah.
you're improving my life, man. And then I want to get
Same here.
into kind of your newer product, right? You guys launched something new.
Yeah. So our second product we just launched. So first product launched in 2019, and seeing a lot of success and a lot of growth there. But the vision is much bigger than that, right? Around building this whole new category of genetically engineered probiotics that can do all kinds of things for human health.
Yeah,
We can essentially program any biological function on the planet into a probiotic, and then you can eat that bacteria and gain that function, which is just a really exciting idea.
that's so
Um,
crazy. Yeah, it's crazy when you
yeah,
think about it like that.
yeah, it's just like the whole world of biology is your opportunity here. And so I really wanted for our second product to build something totally different than the first. Same technology, same underlying idea around kind of promoting human health, but totally different function. And so the second product is called sugar to fiber. And it's the bacteria are engineered to convert simple sugars from your diet in your gut directly into fiber
Okay.
in the gut. So fiber is actually just a long string of sugars stuck together. And so it's actually, biochemically speaking, not that complex of a reaction to do, just
Sure.
an enzyme that can just sort of stick the sugars together to build a fiber directly in the gut. And so this is really cool because, and I thought really important because 95% of Americans don't get enough fiber. That number to me was kind of baffling.
Wow.
Like literally, essentially everybody, like
95.
1 in 20 are getting enough fiber, and the rest of us are not. And that makes sense, right? Like when you look at the modern kind of like food system and like highly processed foods, it's hard like to
Yeah.
get enough fiber. You really have to kind of concentrate. And on average, people get about half of their fiber intake. And it depends on the size of the person, the amount of calories you intake and things like that. But in general, as a rule of thumb, you're shooting for about 30 grams of fiber a day. And so on average, we're getting about 15 grams of fiber. So we're falling short by 15 grams. But the food system and our foods have more than enough sugar laying around. It's in excess, right? And so this is a great substrate for us to kind of like create more fiber naturally from the foods you're already eating, and we build that directly in the gut. So it's past the stomach, it's in the intestine, and we can stack that together as a slow drip all day long, naturally from the foods you're already eating. As opposed to like if you take a fiber supplement, you're taking like one big bolus of fiber all at once, and you're not going to get the maximal benefit out of that. Some of that's going to get degraded in the stomach, and kind of just giving it as like a single dose. But what fiber really does ultimately is it's food for your microbiome, and so it feeds a healthy colonic kind of ecosystem, like all the microbes living in your colon. And so if we can build it like slowly all day long, naturally from the foods you're already eating, and so as like a slow drip, you're going to get more benefit to the microbiome that way. So this is like when I was thinking about like, well, what can we do with what are other things we do with a probiotic? People with our first product were always like, well, like, oh, it's a probiotic, so it'll help my gut. I'm like, well, that's not really the purpose of the first product, right? The probiotic is just a chassis to like deliver this function of breaking down acetaldehyde. But people really were excited about gut health and the microbiome. And so I thought, well, what could we do to actually build something to actually improve the microbiome in some way? And the number one answer to that is more fiber. And so you can get that from your diet, and everybody knows that. And yet still 19 out of 20 of us are not getting enough fiber. So the diet is largely insufficient. And so of course you want to increase your dietary intake of fiber, but sugar to fiber is an opportunity for you to kind of as a support system, an extra kind of boost to get an extra 5 to 10 grams of fiber a day, naturally from the foods you're already eating. And that's kind of the single best thing you can do for the microbiome.
Dude, it's a powerful product. I think it's a great idea. I'm excited to try that one. I have not tried that one yet, so
I'll have to send you some. You have to give it a try.
Yeah, for sure, man. And then who are some are there any athletes, entrepreneurs, people that inspired you throughout your journey to just build a company and do everything that you're doing right now?
I mean, as like an athlete myself, I find inspiration in like kind of like any and every athlete that's working hard, putting their head down, getting a lot done. I don't know if I have any like specific athletes that like really drove me more. Like I honestly take more inspiration from kind of like the friends I work out with and the people who like
man,
work hard
anyone, community, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then in terms of like entrepreneurs, I mean, honestly, there's probably a lot loaded into this that I don't mean to load into it. But like in the early, I'm a scientist, and I didn't think of myself as an entrepreneur. I wasn't even considering entrepreneurship. And honestly, one of the most impactful things to get me to think about that was Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week. Like I read that, and I didn't know anything about that world, and it just kind of like totally opened my eyes to like the idea that there's lots of things that you can do like to build yourself, to build your own business. And so I don't follow Tim Ferriss very much anymore, and not an endorsement or lack of endorsement in either direction. Mostly that just to say that was just a really impactful book for me and getting me to think about being an entrepreneur. And then as I've kind of built this company and looked around, I mean, again, it's honestly the CEOs and founders in the synthetic biology space that I look at and see like, man, I can't believe all the incredible things they're doing. And that's been just really inspirational for me as well. It's kind of like watch kind of people in this space.
What's exciting right now in that space? Anything you can share that you're excited about in the just improving human performance and longevity?
I mean, I'm obviously biased, but like I think that the synthetic biology, the people engineering microbes to do incredible things for the planet and for human health are the ones that are the most inspirational to me. And so I see companies that are building microbes that can take basically things from the air, especially pollution, and turn them into useful kind of molecules for nutrients, for animal feed, or for plants, for agriculture. Like I think those are really exciting. And then people digging into kind of the elements of human health that need solving, and then using microbes to do that. I think that like those are some of the most exciting things I'm seeing today. And there's companies that are working on stuff for the skin microbiome and helping with skin. There are other folks working in the gut like we are. And so there's a lot of really exciting stuff out there. And I'm really excited for kind of this, how synthetic biology and biotechnology is going to impact human health and the planet in the next like 10 to 15 years.
Hell yeah, man. Exciting times. Well, let's transition into our flowstack, which is my favorite part of the series. So our flowstack series is where I ask our guests to share their current core practices and products helping elevate their game. What is in Dr. Zack's current flowstack?
Yeah, I'd say, so I'll take it kind of like temporally for the day. Like when I wake up, kind of the first thing I do that gets me going in the morning is a product called Joey. It's a coffee alternative, and I was surprised. I was having caffeine was starting to kind of give me the jitters and mess with me, and so I was looking for a no caffeine alternative. I found this. It's not no caffeine, but it's low caffeine. And I ordered it not realizing that, and then I tried it, and I had a totally different effect on me in terms of like stimulation in the morning. And it's got a bunch of like nootropics and things in it that I can't vouch for scientifically, but all I can say is that the product itself is amazing. And so I use it every morning. I look forward to every morning.
It's like little packets, you mix in.
It's like a bag of powder, and so basically you scoop it into hot water in the morning, and
Sure.
I really like the flavor too. It's kind of like a cinnamony chocolate kind of flavor. It's great. So I really love that. And then with my morning breakfast, I mix in sugar to fiber. So part of it I shoot for 20 different plants a day. I try to get 50 to 60 grams of fiber a day. But even with that, which is well above what you need in a day of fiber, but another thing we didn't talk about is fiber diversity. It's not just the amount of fiber you get, but the amount of different kinds of fiber that you get that are really important. So I use sugar to fiber because it gives me 3 types of fiber that I'm unlikely to get from other sources, dietary sources of fiber. So always using sugar to fiber every day. Love that, and love the way that makes me feel. And then for lunch, my stack is actually like again, kind of like getting my plants and my fiber. I do cauliflower, frozen berries, chia flax, and protein powder as my lunch.
Any specific protein powder that you like to use?
I was going to mention it next too. I use it again after my post workout. It's Gainful's vegan protein.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
really love. I love that you can sort of specify that and they make it easy. So Gainful's, and I also use their creatine, which is the other kind of supplement that I think is, there's a lot of scientific basis for performance enhancement. And so creatine and protein, and then of course, without a doubt, every time I'm going to have alcohol, the most important part of my stack, pre-alcohol, drink that before I drink, so I can make my morning workout the next day.
Got to have the ZBiotics for sure. What's your typical drink of choice when you are consuming alcohol?
Yeah, my 2 favorites are champagne, or to be clear, I like cheap, palatable champagne. I enjoy the bubbles, and then I like Boulevardier is my favorite cocktail, and so I'll have that.
Nice. Okay, very cool, very cool. And then just to continue on your flowstack, just to see if there's any other things that can jog your memory. What about training gear? Is there any gear that you specifically like to use while you're working out? I know you mentioned you are thinking of doing a high rocks and a potential deca. What's your training gear look like?
Like most of my training is like HIIT and running, and so I don't end up using a lot of gear. Although, like I have, for recovery, I definitely I foam roll as much as I can remind myself to do it. And so try to focus on the soft tissue. But like in terms of gear, I use a pair of like Nike Pegasus runner shoes, which is kind of like the only gear I ever pay attention to.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for joining the Playbook Podcast. I'll be sure to link all the ZBiotics and your personals in the show notes. And man, we'll have to do this again for one of your next products next year.
Thanks so much, Alec. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach.